Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're looking at the Romulan Scorpion class fighter. So, this is a ground attack craft, or at least it's listed that way here on Daystrom's website. Um, it's a small craft that we got to see in Star Trek Nemesis. So, unit run unknown, but 150 built in total, 120 have been lost in all. Let's see, it's got a length of 4 meters, a beam of 1.5 meters, a height of 1.5 meters, and only one deck. It's listed as only being about 2.5 tons, crew of two, has one disruptor cannon, and let's see, unknown hull, sublight propulsion only, and beam firepower. Remember, this is like against the Galaxy class being a 1000, so this is a beam firepower of 3, weapon range and accuracy is 15. Combat maneuverability is 23,800. So there's not much here. Let's see what we have written up. The Scorpion is a Riemann design in use with the Romulan Empire from Syria 2378. Starfleet intelligence had gained some intelligence on the craft, but relatively little was known about them. The first close up look was gained by Captain Picard and Lieutenant Commander Data, used a Scorpion to make their escape from the Praetor's flagship Scimitar. The Scorpion is essentially a militarized shuttle pod, small, relatively limited in its capabilities, but easy to produce in quantity. Its flight performance is insignificant to allow it a serious role as a fighter craft, and it most probably serves as a ground attack craft. The armament is light even by those standards. A single disruptor cannon is carried, and although no hard figures were available, that was produced by Picard during his escape and appeared to be approximately the equivalent of a Starfleet Type 6 phaser. Um, was used on many Federation shuttlecraft. Mounted on the dorsal surface, limits its field of fire against ground targets. There was no sign of any torpedo launcher or other weapons, though possibly these can be fixed externally if required. The lack of shields and armor would make lingering over or even near hostile forces an unlikely proposition. The Scorpion is most likely intended to be used as a support of Romulan or Riemann group troops, or ground troops, sorry, loitering above friendly territory and then making fast diving runs at the enemy's forward areas before rapidly escaping. Even so, the casualty rate against the kind of defense mounted by the Federation forces would be quite high. So most of this is their own speculation. The yellow is exactly what we know from the movie, which there's not much there. Um, I mean, we can keep going on here. Um, and like I said, this is from Nemesis. It was just a small craft. Really, it was kind of designed for Picard and Data to try and get out of the Riemann Praetor ship. Okay, so when we look at the Romulan Scorpion class starfighter here, we will see what we all have from our D6 Holocron. Okay, this is a size 2 starfighter. It is a length of, now this is a little bit bigger. We have 7 meters long, 2.5 meters tall, and 4.5 meters wide, I believe is how I'm reading this. Maybe I'm a little wrong on this, but either way, uh, size category 2, which I already stated, has, does have an autopilot of 2D plus 2, so you can kind of get it from here to there. Has a crew of 1 and gunners of 1, so one person for our gunner, the other one for our pilot. Cargo capacity is none. It's presumed to have enough consumables for a week. We do have a hyperdrive of 3 or a hyperdrive, a standard warp, warp. I'm sorry, our standard warp capability is a warp 3. Our maximum is warp 4 with a max rating is warp 5 for 6 hours. We do have a nav computer, has a maneuverability of 2D plus 1, has a space speed of 9, does have an atmosphere speed of 1,150, has a hull of 2D plus 1, so it is just above our standard, has a shields of 1D. So you can see that they've really taken this and created it into a proper fighter. Having a warp drive, shields, a just a hair above standard hull. You kind of see that. Now, our sensors, which I wouldn't expect all that much, but it is Star Trek. So we can passively scan out to 3 kilometers at a +1, actively scan out to 8 kilometers with a +2. We can do an active search to 12 kilometers with a 1D +1 and a focus out to 500 meters at a 1D +2. The range isn't bad for a small fighter craft, but the bonuses aren't really there. So the computer really isn't much of a computer for scanning. We do have the Type 4 disruptor cannon, has a 360-degree dorsal turret. Crew of 1, which is our gunner. Fire control is 0D, so it's whatever the gunner can do. Fire rate is 3, so we can fire 3 times in a round, and it does 5 damage. So it's pretty respectable. It's not that bad. They've really kind of beefed it up, made it into like I said, a proper starfighter in those regards. We do have a Class Alpha tractor beam, starfighter scale. Fire control is 0D, has a strength of 3D. Now, again, they gave it 10 probes, which I don't know if I would or not. Either way. And we're going to read through what they have between Memory Alpha and Memory Beta and what they've kind of created. So the Scorpion class vessel is a small attack fighter stored aboard the Riemann Warbird Scimitar in 2379. When Captain Jean-Luc Picard was captured and taken aboard the Scimitar, the Praetor Shinzon, the captain and Data used a Scorpion-class vessel to escape, taking the fighter through the Scimitar's corridors when the shuttle bay doors were sealed to prevent them from making a direct exit. Although he initially found the craft difficult to maneuver, he eventually managed to drive the vessel through a window located in the Shinzon's reprehensive chamber and escape into space, where the craft was beamed aboard the USS Enterprise E. The Scimitar's shuttle bay, where the Scorpion-class vessel was stored, was later destroyed by the Enterprise, and the Scimitar collided. Star Trek Nemesis. So, I think it should have been made into a proper fighter, kind of like what they did. I think that's something that Star Trek really does need in some regards, kind of moving forward. And the reason why I say that is when we look at forces like the Borg, the Dominion, and all that, fighter aircraft make a lot of sense just because it does today. Having small craft, small crew that can go out and do a lot of our fighting for us. Even if you take that in the same space maneuvers that we would see out of like a Star Wars, where they're going to be on the outer fringe and the Vanguard force, even for our capital scale vessels. The same tactics are going to get used, because keep in mind, when George Lucas did Star Wars, he's basing that off of a World War II in space. Our tactics, I think, would revert to very much what we do today, or even a World War II in space for Star Trek as well. So in my view, I think getting enemies that are being more problematic, like the Borg and the Dominion, and how the galaxy is going to view space after that. I think you're going to find more military vessels. I mean, we did come out with the Akira class, which is essentially a Federation aircraft carrier. although the added benefits that it can have, even if we're just talking about being able to have shuttles and the like, really does make it a very advantageous ship because you can have a lot of shuttles that go down to a planet and evacuate people and bring them back up, besides whatever you can use the transporters for. Or, as has happened in many of episodes of Star Trek, where it is difficult to use transporters in some areas. Likewise, there are areas, some planets, because of the atmosphere and all that, where we have a hard time trying to use shuttles. So having capabilities to go back and forth like that is very advantageous. So with that, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for visiting. Always wonderful to have you stop by and share the time with me. Um, Hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next video.